signal, please. And yes, we are live, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Welcome everybody to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 19th of May 2020. Just a reminder, the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Please be patient. Electronic meetings are different to face-to-face, we all know that, and don't speak over others. First of all, any apologies for absence? No. This council meeting has been live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting, that you ensure you're respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will be made for administrative purposes. I would like to introduce for the council prayer tonight, we have the Reverend Andrew Cunningham from the Orange Uniting Church. Welcome to our council meeting, Andrew.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the welcome. Let's pray. Our God, on this lovely autumn day, we thank you for this city. We thank you for the diversity of the city and its people and its surrounds. And with that brings a diversity of challenges and a diversity of joys. And so we pray for this council meeting tonight, for those who serve on it as elected members and those who work alongside in the administration and the governance of this city. Give this group of people wisdom, compassion, a longing for justice, and a longing for care. We pray particularly for those members of this city who are going through a struggle at this time. We pray for comfort for them, for the resources they need, and blessing for this meeting tonight. So we pray in the name of God, in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Quite welcome to stay with us, but I'm quite sure you have other important things to attend to.
Well, thank you. Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you very, very much for that.
Okay.
Councillors, we move back to 1.4, the acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. Any declarations of interest? Nope. There's no open forum this evening because we have no speaking. Speaking tonight, I will now pass over to the CEO, David Waddell, for good news.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have two items of good news tonight. There's an email from Brooke Daniels, who's the Chief of Staff for ABC Central West, thanking Council and Council staff for support given to the ABC show Australia All Over. The ABC appreciates assistance provided to make Macca's show a success. It was broadcast from Cook Park. And secondly, an email from Jenny Hazelton, who most of you know, Orange Push for Palliative, thanking Council for enormous support provided for the visit of the Australian Doctors Orchestra in March 2020. The visit was an outstanding success on every level. The sellout concert raised over $20,000 and the money will go towards establishing permanent amenities for palliative care, such as a palliative care garden. Special thanks to Council Theatre staff Michelle Pearce, Christy Westcott and Peter Telford.
Thank you, Mr. Waddell. There are no mayoral minutes. I move on to item 3.1, which is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Orange City Council on the 12th of May.
Seconded. Munro.
Councillor Munro, seconded Councillor
Burnham.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Nugent speaking. I think on page 6, under 4.1, I don't think that I moved that notice of motion. That was Councillor Whitten's notice of motion, and I'm pretty sure, from my memory, Councillor Whitten moved it. happy to take credit for it, but I think it was actually Councillor Whitten who moved it. So the minutes just probably needs to be changed to reflect that.
Thanks, Councillor Nugent. Any other items?
Yes.
Councillor McKay, yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 7, there's a detail regarding the matter arising of Councillor Whitten's stepping down as chair of infrastructure policy, but I'm assuming that needs to be amended as he did not step down, and that was explained the next day in an email to council.
Yep, thank you very much for that. Any others?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have two. The first one is, I think somewhere along the line that Councillor Whitten also become Deputy Mayor again in one of the items there, somewhere just looking for it. But also, I got a query on...
Hold on a second, one at a time. Now, what'd you say?
Well, one of them dropped down as Councillor Whitten as Deputy Mayor.
That's an infrastructure. I think that's an infrastructure.
I read it somewhere anyway. But listen, but I want to go to page 9, and I don't know what happened. I just noticed here that Councillor Romano left the meeting at 8:31 and the meeting closed at 8:33. I mean, I think that seems to me to be a little bit pedantic. I mean, we all knew the meeting was closing. Now, I don't know whether his machine went flat or whatever the case may be. But if we're going to put things in there like that, we should put everything in there.
Councillor Duffy, it's Samantha Freeman. If I can just clarify, that's an item in which Councillor Romano had declared a conflict of interest and wasn't able to participate in that item for the meeting.
Recall that? No, I don't recall that at all. Did you clarify what the item was? I don't recall.
I do apologise, Councillor. I'm sorry, Councillor Romano. That was another item in relation to the DA.
I didn't. I don't recall.
Yeah, no, that's been clarified. No, it wasn't.
But Councillor Romano didn't vote on that item. Wasn't present for the voting of it, so we're required to specify why somebody was absent for the vote.
Yep.
Oh, so you're assuming that I was declaring an interest? Is that what you mean?
No. Saying you weren't there for the vote.
Okay.
You just weren't present for that item.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Duffy, does that answer your questions? Right.
Right.
Confirmation of minutes. All in favour? Hands, please, just so we can see. Against? Thank you. There are no notices of motion or rescission. I move down to general reports. First of all, 5.1 are recommendations and resolutions from the
Happy to move to the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute, I've got
Councillor Nugent moving. I need a seconder first. A seconder. Hamling. Councillor Romano.
Yeah, I've got Mr. Mayor. I've got a matter arising from the from this previous meeting with the infrastructure. It's regarding the question I asked on whether Gosling Creek camping site was complete, and I recall the answer was yes, it was. I don't have that. There is no reference to me asking that question. That's the first thing I wanted to raise. If we're going to be talking about times and things, there's a matter arising on page 19. To clarify this, on page 19, I spoke before Councillor Munro regarding Gosling Creek camping, and there's no mention of my item, but yet Councillor Munro's request to be brought back to council for a number of apprentices was recorded. So, look, I'm not going to make a big issue of it, but I think that, you know, how does this work? Sometimes they're recorded and other times they're not. But just moving on from that, the reason I'd like to speak on this item is that I visited Gosling Creek today to see what was completed there. And I've got a few questions that don't have to be answered on the spot, but I'd just like to go through them. The first one is that I was told that there was potable water, and yes, there is. There's two bubblers or two shafts, two stands near the toilets. One's got a bubble, which obviously you can see that's for people to drink. The other one I'm confused with. It's a tap on another stand, very low to the ground. I'm just wondering whether that was for dogs. The next question is, all the signs out there say camping is not permissible. But at the last meeting, it was stated that all works were complete for camping. So I'm really confused. I don't know what's happening. Furthermore, there's no signs to say where camping is permitted. I've had a number of people who have contacted the visitor centre and they were told that no camping was permitted. So there again, it contradicts what I was led to believe, Mr. Mayor. So can we have some clarification on what is actually going on if Gosling Creek camping was a resolution of council some 18 months ago? I don't understand what works have been done to attract people to camp there or to register. We need to go through those details as well. If somebody wants to camp there, do they register with a visitor centre? So we know they're there. What areas do they camp in? The one that I identified about 18 months ago was, I think it was northeast of the amenities block. I was told it was going to be slashed and cleaned up. Well, I've got photos here that show that there's 2 foot long grass there and weeds and dead branches, dead wood everywhere laying around in amongst the grass. There's no way you can even walk through there. So I'm very disappointed that the public's been led to believe that this was approved and nothing's been done.
All right, well, look, can I just take the first one? First one was, yes, you did, I don't know the exact part, but anyhow, they can refer back to recording of the meeting. Yes, you did raise some matters in the Infrastructure Policy Committee. So I'll get the committee clerk to actually have a look at that and make sure that they're in the minutes. That's number one. Number two, those questions that you're asking, then I think the CEO had his hand up.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, okay, Councillor, we'll take that on board, and if you don't mind, we'll get a memo out to you this week on an update of all of the Gosling issue, including signage, plan of management, and our website as a minimum.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move a resolution for the next council meeting. I'll put it in writing to the GM, to the Chief Executive Officer on tomorrow, actually.
Sorry, on what?
I'm happy to move a resolution for the next council meeting in regards to Gosling Creek. There's some things we need to timelines and all those type of things there. So I'm happy to put a resolution up for the next council meeting.
Well, I think I'd just wait until the CEO has just indicated he's going.
How long do we have to wait?
Well, he said, if I may speak, the CEO has just notified us that he'll be sending a memo tomorrow. So I'd be happy to wait for the memo, Councillor Duffy, if that's okay.
Thanks, Councillor Romano. Okay.
I think that's probably
whatever makes you happy.
Well, I think we'll have a look at what the progress is out there, and we'll go from there, Councillor Duffy.
Thanks.
Is everybody happy with that?
Thanks, Mr. Wardell. So, Councillor Romano, you can send those questions in if they're not picked up here. If you just send them in to Mr. Wardell, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favour? Hands, please. Against? Thank you. 5.2 is the Statement of Investments for April 2020.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Move, Councillor Munro. Second, Councillor Taylor. Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favour? Against? Thank you. 5.3 is the Quarterly Budget Review and Progress Report, Quarter 3, 2009.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Move, Councillor Munro. Second.
Yeah.
Second, please.
Councillor Duffy, I think.
Councillor Duffy, can you, if you're moving, can you just speak up, please? It's a bit hard here on the screen. Second to Councillor Duffy. Any questions? If not,
Yes.
all in. Sorry, Councillor Nugent.
Sorry, yes, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about the local housing strategy, which is referred to a few times in this report. I know things have sort of been very focused on the COVID-19 and everything that has brought to us, but just wondering how the local housing strategy is progressing or what the next steps are.
You want to handle that, Mr. Waddell, or who? Mr. Hodges.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's 3 steps to go. So we've done the first 2 stages of constraints analysis and the identification of the current situation, reviews of state, local and federal trends. So we've got that done. That document itself has been resolved by council to put on exhibition, so we get out of the way any comments on trends or the statistics behind the report. So we'll be very soon. COVID has been a bit funny. We've just had to change consultants as well for the next 3 steps. So the next 3 steps is going out with the community consultation at the higher level for development itself and calling for expressions of interest where people would like to see. And then that document gets finalised with the community consultation comments and brought back to council. So probably with the COVID and also the consultants, it's probably put us back 1 to 2 months, I'd say, to where I would like to have been.
Thanks, Mr. Hodges. Councillor Hamlin.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a quick one. I just see on page 39 about Qantas making Orange its 13th destination. It's been announced today about June 1 that regional New South Wales will be opened up again from the Premier. Did everyone? Yeah, everyone knew that. I'm just wondering, has Qantas given any indication maybe when they would start, or are they just waiting to see?
Well, the last thing we had, remember, we were going to meet them just before this lockdown came, and then the last I know, anyhow, was a letter and a phone call from them saying that things are on hold at the moment until post-COVID. But that's the last I heard. Perhaps Mr. Waddell may have heard more.
Sorry, sir, I just missed that because I've just rejoined the meeting.
No, just saying, have we heard any more from Qantas beyond what we got before the shutdown? Remember, they said that things are on hold until after COVID.
Especially when June 1 regional New South Wales has been opened up again?
Yeah. I'll
defer to Mr. Greenham. Mr. Greenham, I don't think we've had any more correspondence.
That's all right.
We could follow that up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll follow. Actually, it's a good point. If we can just make a note, we will follow them up with perhaps Mr. Greenham could follow them up with a phone call tomorrow or an email or something. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Whitten. Yeah, Councillor Whitten.
Just a question on page 40, Regional Library Administration Fee. There's an underspend of 1.3 million. Is that in the expenses? We've budgeted 1.3 million, but we haven't spent any of it yet.
Yep.
Which is a good thing.
I think you'll find that we have spent money in the regional library admin. It may not have just hit the accounts in terms of journal at this stage, Councillor Whitten, but we certainly are still administering the Central West Libraries. So it's just an anomaly, I think, at this point. And when we do the annual accounts, that'll be fixed up.
So it'll be up to date next month.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Privatera.
Actually, at the moment, we're looking at a small deficit at the moment. Is there any more information that's expected to blow out any further, the deficit?
Based on, I think based on that, if you look at that draft budget,
yep,
we're talking about 1.7 million, or I don't know the exact figure, but Mr. Cook will be able to tell us down to a cent.
If anything, Councillor Privatera, we're hoping that it'll go the other way. So we're always conservative as accountants. So, for example, COVID, we've taken out a lot of income from the services that are closed. We've taken out no expense. So there may be some savings in expense. For example, when the pool was shut, we weren't incurring high energy charges and the like. So we've been conservative and taken out the income, but we haven't taken out the expense. There's also vacancies throughout the year for staff positions. So we budget for full employment, but there's been staff vacancies throughout the year, and that always brings us back some money. So I would expect, if anything, it would go the other way.
Thanks, Mr. Cook. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Councillor Patara,
Sure does. Thank you.
Was there another question there? If there wasn't, all in favour? Thank you. Then we have Health and Innovation Precinct, item 5.4.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Wait a second until I open my page.
Mr Munro.
Councillor Nugent.
Councillor Munro and Councillor Nugent. Any questions?
Comment, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
Just, a fantastic report. I, didn't read every word, but I read right through it. But whilst, we're aware of our growing importance as far as the medical centre is concerned, but I believe we should not forget our base, which is around us, which is farming, and also the importance in the past of the EMCO, the email and the Electrolux factory, where we had an over-reliance on that factory at one stage. And as I have mentioned before, whenever they went on strike, the city stopped because we were too reliant. I wouldn't like to get to the point where we're too reliant on the health industry. We must not forget the importance of farming around us with the apples and the cherries, etc., and the importance of mining. And we've got the Cadia mine, but the new one down at where is it?
That's correct.
Outside Blaney, yep. But also, the importance that we've got with food and wine and with tourism. Whilst it's welcome news as far as the health service is concerned, it was very interesting to see the overall number of people. But we always talked about 300,000 plus, but it's now getting close to 400,000 people that will from time to time utilise those services. But food and wine is becoming more and more important with Orange as far as tourism concerned, and that confidence is being shown in the Quest Apartments and the other application over in Ensley Avenue for another hotel. And I understand the proposed hotel up near the Summer Centre may still be alive as well. So it's a very important part of our economy and our jobs growth. And whilst, as I said, this is an excellent report, but let's not forget the diversification that Orange has, and we need that continuing diversification to ensure that our city grows in a sustainable way. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
If I can just say, Councillor Turner, no, we don't forget that at all. I think in any sort of media that we see that goes out from here, or anything that I'm actually talking about or anyone's talking about, we talk about where we've reached that critical mass and the diversification that we have. This report is just on that health and that health precinct. Something big as this and employs more people is education, actually. It's an interesting one. People completely overlook education, how important that is in Orange, from the university sector through TAFE through to the schools. Yeah, no, we're certainly not. And I think just recently I mentioned we're one of the few that I know, and I'm waiting for someone to jump on and come back, one of the few cities or towns that I know in regional New South Wales that can say that they've attracted a new manufacturing industry in the last 2 years or 3 years. That's going into the email site, for instance.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions on the Councillor Nugent?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, just as Councillor Turner said, look, it's an exciting document in terms of the future of our city and the development of that particular precinct. I think it handles economic and social issues very well. I think I'd have to say it probably is a bit light on in terms of environmental issues. it does talk about environmental issues in certain places, but there's some important environmental areas out there in terms of Bloomfield bushland. And so I'm very happy to see it go out on public exhibition, but I'd foreshadow that I think there could be a seventh planning principle, master plan principle in there around green space and passive recreation, just recognising the health benefits of green space and passive and active recreation in terms of the sporting precinct area and that Bloomfield bushland area that sort of surrounds the hospital precinct. So, but other than that, I think it's an excellent document and very interested to hear comments from the community.
I think, Councillor Nugent, I'm only too happy to give you a map and some work that was done a few years ago, just how much green space is actually out there around the hospital. It's got more green space around Bloomfield, not counting the new hospital, than most hospitals in the state. And all that area at the back that's been planted out, which you're quite aware of, and so am I. And in fact, I believe very, very strongly that if you look at the master planning for that region, that environmental issues have been right to the forefront in any of the planning discussions that I was at, and you were at. I know they came up.
My point, Mr. Mayor, I agree with you. My point is that in this report, environmental issues are only sort of touched on in a few places. And I think that there is a lot of green space out there, and I just like to see greater recognition of the importance of that green space in the plan.
Yep. I think Councillor Munro had his hand up.
I just wanted to make a comment on the car parking out there. Many people still having trouble getting car parks. When we're lucky enough to hopefully take over that from the ex-services club, it'd be great to be able to put some more car parking along that side of the, as we sort of wanted a couple of years ago, right from the front to the back. A couple hundred car parks would be fantastic, because it's still a changeover of staff out there have terrible trouble finding a park.
And especially by the staff that all park in the front that are for patients.
Yeah, that's right. So, but either way, we still need to look at that into the future planning of it.
Yeah,
we've still got to wait for that major car park to be built, haven't we? We're still waiting.
Yeah, as far as I know. Okay.
Yeah, we were.
But I'll get Mr. Wardell to answer that. Where is he?
We were debating that 3 years ago.
Yeah, but the state government committed, I think, at the last election, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's
Mr. Wardell. Oh, Mr. Hodges, have you heard any more about the car park out there?
No, you're referring to the car park that was going to run down the side as well.
Yeah.
Taylor. Yeah. Can I come back to you on that one?
Yeah, it'd be good, because it's been promised for a lot of years. I mean, it's about, we've given plenty of time.
I think
a project was done. I'm not sure it was the complete project. We'll check. Come back to you, Councillor.
Good on you.
I think even at the time when it was debated, council said that the state government puts the money up, we would actually have the right to put it in, like do the grading and the works of it at that time, or it's in my recollection. Might want to look back on that.
All right, all in favour?
Yep.
Against, thank you. We move on to 5.5.
Happy to move it.
Second, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Nugent.
Mover in Councillor Duffy, seconder in Councillor Nugent. Any questions? Councillor Mileto, I think first, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering whether council have made any grant applications with regards to this item. Certainly the Wiradjuri people are the custodians of this, traditional custodians of this land, and I think it's only appropriate that we look at advancing this this matter as far as we can, because just the significance of it, and I'm just wondering if one of the directors could let me know, or let the other councillors know, whether there has been any grant applications, whether it's under the Stronger Country Communities Funds or anything like that.
Mr. Maunder?
Through you, Mr. Chair. We haven't as yet, no. The completion of this work is an integral part of being able to apply for funding. So the detail in the conservation management plan and the future directions, including the architectural plan, the landscaping plan, are in this document. So after exhibition, we'll bring it back to council. That'll be considered by council. If adopted, we're able to then rely on it for our grant applications. It does also overlap the health precinct, so it does pick up some of those elements that Councillor Nugent was referring to in regards to biodiversity considerations as well. So these two documents do talk to each other. That's the approach we'll take. Bring it back to council. If adopted, then we'll use it for grant applications.
So it'll be on public consultation, what, for a month?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, a month. Can I ask a question? How many councillors have actually been out to this site?
Long time ago.
Thank you.
I must admit, I've never heard of it, Mr. Mayor.
I think everybody should go out and have a very serious look at the site and have a good read of this document, because there will be a lot of community input into it, I can guarantee you.
Mr. Mayor, just a follow-up question.
So be aware.
Sorry, just a follow-on question. I'm assuming once this is completed, it'll be advertised and promoted within our visitor centre and on our website?
Well, I would imagine so, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, look, I agree with what Councillor Miletto was saying. It's a really important area. I don't know how many places around Australia there's been where there's been that during that depression period, sort of transient population of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people living together at that particular point in history. But I think it
all over Australia, mate.
I think that's one of the important aspects of it. And just to pick up on what you were saying, I would like to suggest or request that there be a visit, maybe a councillor, an opportunity for councillors to go and walk the area and have a bit of a guided tour of it, just to sort of see the area firsthand, and maybe have some of the sort of key features pointed out to councillors, because I think it's one thing to read a document like this, but I think it's another thing to see it firsthand. So if that can be organised, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I second that. I think it's a good idea, Steve.
Yeah, we'll follow that up, Councillor Nugent. Yeah, good idea. Okay, all in favour? Against, thank you. 5.6 is the city entrance sign conceptual design.
Mr. Mayor.
Second that, Mario.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not opposed to the new signage, but I think what's really important on the entrances to town, as well as a sign, and maybe one not as elaborate or maybe cost effective. I don't know what cost is in it, so it'd be interesting to know. But I honestly feel that facilities need to be provided at each end of the town for people to pull over. Chinaman's Bend there and coming in from Molong sort of thing. That there's somewhere to just pull over for if you're a truck driver or a grey nomad or whatever, and you just want to relieve yourself.
I just say, Councillor Munro, coming in from the eastern side, you have two places where you can pull over. You have the driver revive area. You also have a Chinaman's Bend where you can pull over, and that's where lots of trucks and caravans pull over now. Then you have the driver reviver on the other side. With what you said with these designs, I think, can I just say, this has been going on for a number of years now. I just can't believe it. Hopefully I will see it in my lifetime, but I'm not going to bank on that yet, I can guarantee you. But one thing that I know we have discussed that we need something that's reasonably simple, easy to maintain, because maintenance becomes a problem with all sorts of things. But look, something like coming into Bathurst, and Bathurst have got something, you know, using native grasses and plants, some rocks, reasonably simple and not overly priced, but easy to maintain. And the whole idea from that committee is to have these eventually at all the entrances coming into Orange. Councillor Newton.
Can I say from experience, Councillor Munro, building toilets quickly is not council's forte.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Councillor Newton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So just a question. The recommendation is to acknowledge the reports. Does that mean that this is the final design? Because
it's not the designs that we decided on.
Sorry?
It's not the designs that we agreed upon.
As in the Parks, Trees and Waterways Committee, you mean, Mr Mayor? Yes. No, it's not. It's a different design. And I've had mixed comments on it, some positive, some negative. But I really think it's important that this sign, being the sort of premier, most important sign as we come into Orange, acknowledges the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land. So I know it is elsewhere, but if this is going to be the final design, I'd like to see that acknowledged somewhere on the sign. And there is a plaque. There seems to be a plaque that talks about that sort of is an Orange City Council plaque. I don't know why that needs to be there. So if this is the final design, I would be moving an amendment that acknowledgement of the Wiradjuri people be included on the design.
Well, I'd like to move an amendment to this, that the report be acknowledged, but the recommendations from the Parks and Street Trees Committee be accepted. And secondly, I have no trouble with the Wiradjuri. We'd have that on there anyhow. This is not the design that was recommended by the park. And gee, I don't know how many meetings we had on this and how many designs we looked at.
Well, Mr Mayor, I think we'd have to have those in front of us before we vote on them. I mean, if this is
okay.
Mr. Furr.
Whatever's like, look, can I just say one thing with this? I give up on this. I really do. I don't know how many years I've been talking about signs and things. We have a Parks and Street Trees Committee. All the designs came to the council previously.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't know.
The council agreed on them, and this is not what we agreed upon.
Yeah, but I haven't, Mr Mayor, please appreciate the point. I haven't seen that there's other designs. So, I mean, I think if we're going to consider it, we need to have it put back to us. I would ask that you defer the matter and then come back with the
I'll second that.
Of the recommendation.
All right. As long as CEO, what I want to come back to council is the minutes from the Parks, Street Trees and Waterways Committee and their recommendation that went to council and that was approved. McRae, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, being a practical person and being somewhat concerned at times about the length of time it does take for us to get what may seem as a very simple construction underway, I'll speak against the proposed amendment. I think that we have a design here. We either approve it with the suggested amendment to include Wiradjuri, or we don't, and we go back to the drawing board. Rather than defer, go back and forth, we either accept this design and we are able to get something established in a short period of time, which would see that entry to Orange at that particular corner be welcoming for tourists as we start to see the state reopen and increased regional travel, or we knock it on the head now and we go back to the drawing board. But we as councillors, as Councillor Whitten often says, we are the ones who make the decision in the end. We have an opportunity to make a decision. Let's make one. Whichever way it goes, we stand by that decision.
Well, I'd like to speak against that and what's recommended in here, because this is nothing like what was discussed over a long period of time with a and Councillor Nugent's on that committee also, as there's a number of people, and that went to council, and this is not what that went to council. That's what I'm saying. Have a look at what went to council. You voted for it. So,
100%, Reg.
Bring it back to the council.
Bring it back. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor first.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask that it come back to council with the design which you say was approved by the committee and council previously, so that we can compare both of those models. Surely it's not too time consuming to bring back that report, accompany it with this, and consider it in council's next meeting.
We could bring it back next meeting, I'm quite sure.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Councillor Nugent?
Yeah, sorry, just a question through you, Mr. Mayor. My memory of that was that the minutes of the Parks, Trees and Waterways Committee did come with the designs included, but the feelings were with that design that was done internally within council was very mixed. There was some support for it, but general quite a bit of concerns about it. And I'm not sure whether council actually approved design at all. I think
we'll wait and see, Councillor Nugent, and if I'm wrong, I will apologise to you personally.
No, you don't have to apologise.
No, I will.
I'm just saying, I don't think we have approved a design previously.
We have asked for them to come back, and that will be the proof in the pudding, won't it? One way or the other.
I'm happy to have it brought back at the next meeting.
Can we have it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It looks pretty and everything like that, but to me, I have a concern, and if it's addressed when it comes back, is what it will actually do for the whole of the ambience of the area, not just that little square. The ambience of driving in, like it does with Bathurst, if you mentioned, it's the whole ambience of the area that it enhances. Now, what's this going to do for the ambience of the area? I want to know.
Who was it? Councillor Whitten, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak for the amendment. I think we need to follow some due process here. Like, there's no use having committees putting up recommendations that aren't being considered by the council. If that particular committee has put forward recommendations which haven't made it to council, and I'll stand corrected if they have, but I don't recall them. I think we should follow due process and at least consider what that committee has recommended, because at the end of the day, whenever we stand up, and Councillor McRae, yeah, you're dead right, I always say that we are the final decision makers, but certainly we have committees and we need to give them the appreciation of having their thoughts put forward to council. So yeah, I speak for the deferral, and let's have a look at those designs, because these particular designs are pretty bland, and when people come to a city, I know when I drive into a city, the first impression I get of that city is of course the entrance and the signage of that city, and it speaks volumes about where you're entering and it tells a story about the city. So these are a bit very Canberra looking, square, a couple of flags on top. So, and that's no disrespect to the person who designed them, by the way.
I just asked the CEO a question. Can we have this back for the next council meeting? That's over 2 weeks away.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Good on you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I just do a quick something?
Who was that?
Me.
Right. Who's me?
Councillor Hamling.
Councillor Hamling. Right.
Yeah, sorry. So how I see that it's going to be installed in the. I'm a bit with you on this. I'd like to see these done as soon as possible. I feel like we've been talking about these for.
Yeah, but we haven't seen them. We don't know what we're considering.
I'm saying when we do decide on what we're considering, I'd like to see it fast tracked and built.
I think it'll happen. I think that'll happen.
Yeah, I think it will too. I mean, we need all designs in front of us.
All right, but look, I'm going to put the motion. We've got the resolution that it comes to next council meeting
as soon as possible.
Yeah, move the resolution. Move the
amendment. It was the amendment. It was the amendment, wasn't it?
The amendment, yeah.
All in favour?
Could we have it read what we're voting on, please?
Yeah, Councillor, Mr. Waddell, will you read that, please, for Councillor McRae?
In rough terms, the council will resolve that staff bring back a report with the history of signs from the Parks, Streets, Waterways Committee, and for council to make a decision. on
at the next meeting.
a chosen sign at the next meeting.
Okay.
Roughly.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question on that? I'm speaking in support of the deferment, but I quite like this design, but I can't recall seeing the other design. But there's no pricing, there's no guesstimate about what each sign might cost. So I'd like to see, if possible, some guesstimate about the costings.
Absolutely.
Council, we're on the subject of building them. Council will recall we've got money in the quarterly coming up and in next year's budgets for all these signs. So, thank you.
Okay.
All in favour of the amendment? Hands, please. Amendment becomes a motion. All in favour? Thank you. 5.7 is works contributions in kind for that's been withdrawn. We now have time, Mr. CEO or whoever. We're looking at going into closed meeting. The Chief Executive Officer will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by a closed meeting by Council. In accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following businesses of a kind as referred to in Section 10A, brackets 2 of the Act, should be dealt with in a confidential session of the Council meeting closed to the press and the public. Have you had any submissions?
Mr. Mayor, we have not.
Right. The two items to be, is it okay to go into these now?
You can read the detail on page 427. I'm just waiting for the signal.
Rightio.
Yes, please.
The items to be considered in closed are 6.1 expressions of interest loan borrowings and 6.2 regional express request for deferred debtor. The reasons for confidentiality: the item is classified confidential under the provisions of Section 10A, brackets 2, brackets C. Information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the Council is conducting or proposes to conduct business who supplied it.